All right. First rule of this channel, we not talk about this channel. Second rule of this channel, this is not legal advice. So after the extensive amount of tape breakdown and stats looking at that I did over the weekend, I can come out and kind of talk about like my thoughts after preseason week 1. The biggest thing to be looking at is not about whether or not guys play or how much they play or where they play or if they're playing with the starters. Guys can be played because coaches want to see certain things, and guys can be sat because they don't want to get starters hurt. There's a lot of stuff to be broken down. In general, I don't put a lot of stock in the preseason, guys making good plays, guys making bad plays, guys getting run with the ones or the twos, whatever coaches want to see. It doesn't necessarily matter to me outside of like, does it confirm stuff that I thought I already knew, or does it like make me change my mind on some of the other stuff? Like that's the same thing we're generally looking at in camp and trying to break this stuff down. The biggest thing that I saw this preseason is what I kind of hoped the Raiders were going to do with Brock Bowers, and that's basically live in 2 tight ends, and that's what it looks like they're going to do with him and Michael Mayer. Brock Bowers only had 2 receptions in this game. I think I have this one pulled up someplace. Brock Bowers only had 2 receptions in the game. The 2 receptions I saw were basically they lined him out wide and then ran basically a pick route to like a bad looking slant, but it was a design play to him to get him the ball in open field. The other play that they ran with him, they lined him up at fullback. It just ran a flat route and then let him go pick up a first down in the red zone. I mean, that's basically all I want to see. Like Brock Bowers is going to be the fullback, slot receiver, wing back for the Raiders, and then it just becomes a question of like how much how bad the Raiders offense is going to be. I don't necessarily think they're going to be bad. I wouldn't go as far as to say they're going to be good. And as I talked about before, like they just generally have to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when it goes from like how bad we thought they were going to be to how good they're going to be this year. The thing that we can't really guess on is Brock Bowers' role in the red zone and how often the Raiders are going to be there. Remember, if he can get about like 7 targets a game, that's going to make him a tight end 1. That's all I really want to see about it. If he starts pushing up there to like, 8 targets, 9 targets, or just combined opportunities, I do think he'll probably get a little bit of, design carries at certain points in the season. He may end up being like the number 2 weapon in the offense behind Devontae Adams. Just how they're going to use Brock Bowers is making me a little bit more interested in, or shouldn't say how they're going to use him, how they theoretically could end up using him as this mismatch where they're like, hey, you want to leave your linebacker on the field? We're going to make him go out and cover Brock Bowers. Hey, do you want to try and get small? We're just going to run the football down your throat with Zamir White. Again, with Zamir White, probably doesn't help him if he's just going to be the banger within the tackles without the design passing work. Again, how much they're going to actually get in the red zone is going to be the issue. And then how much of those red zone opportunities are going to go to Brock Bowers. That's going to be your difference between like theoretical league winner and, like getting a very good pick at the price that he's going. So with Brock Bowers, and I was looking at him up ahead of time, he is going at like tight end 12, I believe it is, on Fantasy Pros. I was looking it up ahead of time. So he's going like 108 overall on half point PPR, which is fine. That allows me a good opportunity to start punting, your Kelce's, your Laportas, even your Trey McBrides and your Mark Andrews. Like everybody's got warts, and it just means that like if I don't feel the need to go knife fight for some of these guys, like I have a Brock Bowers in my pocket, and I could get theoretical upside to at least get me out of that position where I feel like I don't have the ability to win a week with my tight end. And I think he probably is going to be flirting with that range of like tight end or wide receiver 3, which is going to allow me like the ability to theoretically be able to win on any given week if I get the touchdown and the usage to go together with it. So I do generally like that. This would move him up not just to like fringe draftability. I think he should be drafted in all leagues. It probably should be like starting in a lot of leagues where it comes to how I would build my roster. It becomes an issue of like how much I feel like I can punt the position. And because I like Njoku a lot more and I like Jake Ferguson a lot more, this just means that like Brock Bowers is right there, and I'm probably going to end up fading the rest of the position as much as I do like your Trey McBrides and your Mark Andrews and your Dalton Kincaid. We'll talk about Dalton Kincaid a little bit more here in a second. So the rookie quarterbacks, I did watch this with like Caleb Williams. Yeah. This is why the preseason is just preseason. It doesn't matter. It doesn't actually put points in my fantasy lineup, so I don't really care about it. Caleb Williams looks good. That's what it looks like. Jaden Daniels did Jaden Daniels things. That's fine. Everybody's going to be talking about Bo Nix. I was talking about this in the offseason, like, has deceptive nimbly bimbly. And if we can get a certain amount of passing work to go along with the deceptive nimbly bimbly, this is just another guy that I know I can pull off the waiver wire and theoretically have like a league winner written on him. So like what I saw of the Broncos week 1, like, is it something I can necessarily count on and have, something I can bank on consistently throughout the season? No, but theoretically, could I find like this year's Brock Purdy, sitting on the waiver wire? Yeah. So like, it's just another thing that again makes me think that with the warts that everybody has, because almost everybody in fantasy has warts, like CMC again with the calf injury and being 28, everybody's got warts. It just means that if I don't have to get excited in my draft, I can let my league mates give me league winners. And that's generally how I would be looking at this thing. Again, like tight end, quarterback, probably not a position I need to go after. Again, objectively going after like, unicorn tight end or, elite quarterback is the right play, but I probably don't have to feel like I need to go up and get a guy if that guy's not there at the right pick. And then JJ McCarthy, this is the other one. I generally think that Sam Darnold is going to have fantasy relevance as long as he's the starting quarterback. It just becomes an issue of like when he becomes a starting quarterback, that offense is going to be too good. JJ McCarthy is going to have just enough nimbly bimbly that like if there is a switch between these two guys this year, JJ McCarthy is probably going to be, just enough, 10, 20, 30 rushing yards a week, maybe fall into the end zone a couple times on top of all the weapons that they have there with the Vikings high volume passing offense. At this point, like, still not draftable, but I generally I'm less concerned with buying pieces of the Vikings offense. The only guy I'm really interested in would be Justin Jefferson. The rest of them are kind of murky, besides that, but like whether or not the offense is going to be good or bad from fantasy perspective, I don't think is like really that big of a deal. All right. Running back room. So Zach Moss didn't play with an illness. He's back to practice, whatever. Chase Brown led the backfield. And he wasn't particularly good. I don't necessarily think it moves anything. I would still be on Chase Brown because of that league winning upside. If you want to be, the other way, bet the other way, like Zach Moss doesn't really change anything. The bigger news out of this weekend is Marshawn Lloyd hurt his hamstring. So this is going to make really kind of change my mind on the running back Z zone with Josh Jacobs getting a piece of what projects to be a good offense. A guy's going to fall or have the opportunity to fall in the end zone a whole bunch of times. And probably has the rookie not biting at his heels as much. The bigger thing with this injury to Marshawn Lloyd is he's not going to be able to earn a piece of the offense heading into the season, which means that like, if I have enough confidence to buy your Josh Jacobs, and even in my like high school league, it would be a guy that I'd be looking at about the value that he's going at. I was looking at this ahead of time where he's going 34 on Yahoo. On ESPN, he is going like 39 overall, about probably where he'd be going. I'm less concerned with drafting him because, as long as he's got it, and your guess is as good as mine if Josh Jacobs still has it. Good offensive line, good offense, a lot of opportunity to fall in the end zone. Doesn't have to be great, just has to be Joe Mixon this year. And you got a guy that's going to be able to do that. So his main reason to not be drafting Josh Jacobs was how much the rookie's going to eat into him. Rookie's not going to be on the field to be able to do that. Who knows how long it's going to be able to take for that hamstring to get better. But, and this is the big thing behind it, is he's not going to be able to earn that role in that offense. And it's going to be Josh Jacobs' job to lose, which is just another reason for me to want to go out and get a certain amount of Josh Jacobs at the price that he's going. So, if I'm staring at Josh Jacobs, remember, red zone opportunities and design passing work. Yeah, Josh Jacobs could do both of that. And without Marshawn Lloyd to eat into that, like, yeah, I could get that like 17-point running back one. It's going to be one of those things like who am I going to be passing on to be able to get this, like, I wouldn't say ugly, but like good enough RB1 in that range that he's going at. Like it is a good enough lottery ticket at the price that he's going at, because the one thing to be concerned with would have been like Marshawn Lloyd. All right. So Devin Singletary didn't play for the Giants. Tyrone Tracy gets the start. That's about all I need to know on that one. So I'm stashing, later round draft pick. I'm stashing with the possibility that he's going to take over. Eric Gray, the second-year running back, like he looked okay, whatever. I don't care. They gave first run to Tyrone Tracy because they want to see something, and that's all I want to know about. Again, it's probably like pass blocking reps. The biggest thing they probably want to take a look at with Tyrone Tracy. So My main money league, I probably will have to be pulling the trigger on him. That's a draft a little bit earlier. If you have the time, and again, this would be my snake draft, less competitive league. If I have the time to wait, preseason week 2, preseason week 3, if they don't play Tyrone Tracy, that's probably a big deal. That means that they've seen enough. He's good enough. If they do play him, and it's because they want to see those pass blocking reps, it becomes an issue of how fast they can take over he can take over the offense. And like I was talking about, like some of these bad offenses, I get really interested when it comes to price, like your Malik Neighbors, that like I can go after a guy that maybe could get me to where I need to get to. So right now, like they gave Tyrone Tracy the first shot at the apple. And it's just going to be an issue of like trying to hear like how well he did. I didn't necessarily see anything when it came to pass blocking reps to go like he did the thing that he was supposed to do. He didn't do the thing that he was supposed to do, but they gave him the shot. So moving on to the Cowboys. So Zeke didn't play, and this is kind of a bigger deal. Like he's a vet. They probably already know what they have with him. Rico Dowdle got the shot. It doesn't necessarily change anything other than the fact that like Zeke didn't play. And if there are going to be a possibility that Rico Dowdle's going to win that job, it's probably going to be something that is going to happen in the season, because if they're not playing Zeke, they've already seen enough of what they need to see out of Zeke at this point. He's old, and they don't need to see anything else out of him by wasting him in the preseason. All right, wide receiver room. So you probably already heard about this. Hollywood Brown, he has it's not a AC joint, it's the actual like sternum that he dislocated. So in this case, like doesn't need surgery. I was already kind of shying away from the Chiefs pieces because I don't know how they'll win me leagues, and there's 3-4 guys in that passing game. Now I know not to go after Hollywood Brown. Again, it's going to be the bigger issue of the re-injury risk if they bring him back too early. The guy that I would probably be a little bit more interested in, and I was looking at him before I went live, would be like your Rashee Rice, 69 overall on ESPN. I think he's like 73 on Fantasy Pros. Going to be limited because of the skill sets of the players. So again, like you're buying a guy's probably like 1,100 yards, like 6-7 touchdowns. If you're into that type of thing, at the price he's going at, like not going to win you a league, not going to lose you a league. He's going to be a nice pick. That would be the guy I'd be going after. The more like I was saying all off season, I just generally don't think they're going to suspend him during the season. Now I know if I'm going to be going after a piece of the Chiefs offense, it's going to be Rashee Rice as opposed to the Hollywood Brown guy, or a pick at the price that he was going at. So it kind of makes it a little bit easier if I do want the piece of that offense in general. So Malik Neighbors, he rolled an ankle day to day, whatever that's mean. The bigger issue I take out of this is like the hype train on him is probably going to keep his price where I like it to be at on ESPN. And I didn't mark him because it shows like that I was prepared again, but he's going about like pick 50, 47 overall on ESPN. He's going about like pick 50 over here on Fantasy Pros. So again, like it just keeps his price where I want it to be at versus what I have to go chasing. So the bigger issue with Neighbors, and if I can hunt him down right there, 44 overall, probably about where he should be going, because the hype train on Marvin Harrison's gotten a little bit out of control. Malik Neighbors gets a little bit more interesting. Probably in my auction league, I'm going to have a better chance to price check him than in most of your other leagues. It's still relatively like okay pick. Enough risk versus reward that like, yeah, you could get burned and get like this ugly RB3 or a wide receiver 3. You may get a little bit lucky and get 150 targets. They're not going to be the best targets, but as long as the offense feels a little bit better, and right now like coming out of camp, like the right things are being said that say like there's enough confidence that the Giants may not be horrible, which is like in general what I would generally want to be looking at. So the Malik Neighbors injury, I could probably still not have to worry about his price going out of control. And I generally like that. Rome worked as the wide receiver 3, generally what we thought he was going to be in the offense with Keenan Allen working as the number 2, again, keeps his price down. So that theoretical upside in the second half of the season is still going to be there as long as like, the hype train doesn't get out of control. So all I'm trying to do is pick out my targets and then hope that the hype trains don't bring these guys out of control. I talked about this last week with Jonathan Brooks. I like the player. I like the opportunity to get like this year's Breece Hall. Doing my mock draft where someone went up like 40 picks to go get him in the 7th round of the draft. Like that's when I'm like, hey, I don't know if it's worth it at that point to hold on to a guy. So it's basically going to be the same thing with Rome, where if I draft Rome, I know that like 3, 4, 5, 7 weeks into the season, I'm expecting him to theoretically end up being at least a wide receiver 2 at the price that he's going at. And on ESPN, where he's going, 94 overall. And again, there's Hollywood Brown, expecting that Hollywood Brown's price is going to drop. As long as Rome's price doesn't get out of control, I got a chance to be able to get a guy that maybe second half of the season, I'm going to have to hold on to him. And to go get a guy at like 94 overall versus like your Jonathan Brooks is probably going to cost me like, in the 60s to go get a Jonathan Brooks in certain leagues. I would probably want the upside to be able to win me the league later from a Rome, as long as the price stays down. So like I do generally, again, doesn't matter. He's on the field. He's doing what I thought I was going to do. And it's going to cost me relatively not a lot to find out and be wrong in the second half of the season. So the Patriots. So Juju Smith-Schuster, he gets cut, which I like because we're tracking Jalen Polk and Javon Baker. They both got work, as I hit the wrong button. They both got work this last week. Patriots offense still projecting to not be necessarily good and to be slower. But in general, to be able to guess one of these guys to theoretically, get good enough wide receiver 2, like that Juju Smith-Schuster, they're still getting on the field. It just moves them up. There's a veteran that's less likely to be able to eat into them at the start of the season. And then when it comes to the Packers and the wide receiver room, yeah, Romeo Doubs is the guy to go out and buy at this point. When it comes to everybody else that's out there, he's the guy that's going to be on the field. He's likely going to lead the snap share, probably going to be capped out as a high-end wide receiver 3, low-end wide receiver 2. But if I want pieces of this offense, it's probably not Dontavian Wicks at this point. It's going to be Romeo Doubs. All right, tight end room. A little bit about the Raiders here in a second. So Dalton Kincaid, I believe he led Dawson Knox in snaps. So again, I've kind of cooled a little bit on Dalton Kincaid. I still like him. I still think he's got the best road to be the unicorn in fantasy this year. I went from, I no longer need to go jump up and get Dalton Kincaid. Well, if he's going to lead everybody in snaps for the Bills, now he becomes back in the picture of going like, well, maybe I have to think about going up and get him. The Brock Bowers thing, this is why I bring these two guys up together, is if I know I still got Brock Bowers, I probably could not go up on a Dalton Kincaid. So I still like Dalton Kincaid. He's going to be a guy that I'm going to be targeting in my auction leagues and see how much everybody else wants to pay for him. In my snake draft league, I'm probably not going to be able to get your Dalton Kincaids because I'm going to have to go up on him. And that's okay because I'm going to be able to go up and get my Brock Bowers to replace him when it comes to that risk reward. In my auction league, I might be able to get Dalton Kincaid much cheaper than what he's going at because of that risk. And in general, like I do like what I saw of how the Bills are going to run with Dalton Kincaid functioning as the number 1 tight end. And then the other thing with this, like Michael Mayer, like sneaky, another guy that I could be looking at later on in my drafts, especially in deeper leagues. Like if he's going to be the Y, the inline Y, and they're going to move Brock Bowers around, it's going to allow Michael Mayer to theoretically have enough targets to jump up into like fringe fantasy relevance, in that like, 7 targets a game range. Like I was doing some math in my head the other day when it comes to what the Raiders would project to be at. Like you're looking about like 30 attempts a game. And some of those are going to probably go to Dylan Labe, probably not going to go to Zamir White. Again, this is going to hurt Zamir White. Devontae Adams could definitely benefit from the mismatches that are going on with Brock Bowers. So I do generally like Devontae Adams a little bit more at the prices that he's going at. And it just allows me to go like, maybe there's enough sneaky Michael Mayer play down the line that I don't necessarily have to go chasing some of those uglier tight ends like your Evan Ingram, stuff like that that's going on out there. So that's about what I saw from week 1 of the fantasy preseason. And if anything else comes up, then I will be sure to go out there and do some more.